So now let's look at the term modulation. Modulation is the process of changing the characteristics of a signal or of one signal with respect to the characteristics of another signal. So as you can see here, modulation is a process of changing the characteristics of one signal with respect to the characteristics of another signal. Now, what are signals? In communication system, signals can be classified into two, which is the types of signals. The one, it's a message signal. And the next one, it's a carrier signal. So this is the classification of signals in communication system. The message signal, the very important signal, and then the carrier signal, which is also a very important signal. Now, these are the kind of signals that you need in order to perform your modulation. So in this way, we can go ahead and then redefine modulation. But before that, let me show you or talk a little bit about the message signal. When you want to convey information and the information is in the form of an audio signal, or you are the one talking, whatever you are saying, it's the message. For instance, when you go to the FM stations, you have a presenter there who is talking. So the kind of information the presenter is conveying is what we call the message, and this message is being converted into signal. So in that case, we call it the message signal. And let's look at something here. This is a carrier signal. As the name suggests, it carries the message. This carrier signal actually helps to carry the information that we want to relay in such a way that our message will not be interfered by any noise, and also it will help us to protect the information that we want to convey without the information being diminished on the way. And we will talk about that. So in this case, when you want to perform a modulation, you need only two signals, which is one, the basic signal, and then two, the carrier signal. So now let's define modulation. So knowing this, we can say that we can redefine modulation, and this is what we have. Modulation is the process of changing the characteristics of changing the characteristics of carrier signal with respect to the characteristics of the message signal. Of the message signal. So as you can see, the information that you are conveying, we don't want it to be distorted, and therefore whatever you are using to carry the information is being regulated in such a way that if maybe your amplitude of your message is 5, the carrier signal try to readjust itself in order to transmit this information. So as the definition suggests, this is the process of changing the characteristics of the carrier signal that you are using to transmit the information with respect to the characteristics of the message signal or the message that you are conveying. This also brings into light what is the characteristics of a signal. In communication system, we have about 3 characteristics of a signal. So in communication systems, we have about 3 characteristics of a signal. The first one that I would like to touch on is the phase, the frequency, and the amplitude. So these are the 3 main characteristics of a signal in communication system. Let's look at something. The general formula of a signal, it's assuming the signal is u of t, then it's equal to Vm sine omega t plus phi. As you can see here, this Vm is the amplitude of the signal. This omega t here, or omega here, is the frequency or angular frequency. And then this phi here is the phase of the signal. So this is the main 3 characteristics of a signal. And therefore, we will finally define modulation as the process of changing the amplitude, the phase, and the frequency of the carrier signal. With respect to the message signal or the instantaneous message signal, to the instantaneous message signal. So this is how we will finally define modulation. So as you can see, we started from somewhere where we were saying that modulation is the process of changing the characteristics of one signal with respect to the characteristics of another signal. And then we came off to define what is meant by signal, and we said that in communication system we have 2 main signals that we need, which is message signal and carrier signal. And based on that, we redefined modulation, and we said that modulation is a process of changing the characteristics of a carrier signal with respect to the characteristics of the message signal. Now we came to look into what it means by characteristics. So we came up with a general equation for a signal, which is u of t equal to Vm sine omega t plus phi. And we are saying that the V subscript m is your amplitude or the amplitude of the signal, the omega is the angular frequency of the signal, and then the phi is the phase angle of the signal. And for that matter, we came into conclusion that modulation is the process of changing the amplitude, the phase, and the frequency of the carrier signal with respect to the instantaneous change in the message signal. So in all, what modulation means is that if you are carrying the information with your message signal and you are changing the frequency, or either the frequency or the phase or the amplitude of the carrier signal with respect to the amplitude of the message signal, then you are doing modulation. So if you want to transmit information from here to Canada and your message amplitude is 100, and then you are using a carrier which is having over 1000 volt amplitude, in adjusting these characteristics of the carrier signal with respect to the instantaneous change in characteristics of the message signal is what we call modulation.